On a bright September morning in 1931, Margaret Pearse, mother of the executed 1916 leader Patrick Pearse, stepped forward inside a printing works in Dublin. She pushed a button that started the presses of a new newspaper in the recently established Irish Free State. The newspaper that rolled off the presses bore a clear promise on its masthead: the truth in the news. With that declaration, the Irish press quickly became one of the most influential and widely read newspapers in the country. The driving force behind the venture was Éamon de Valera, founder of the political party Fianna Fáil. De Valera not only established the paper but took direct personal control of its management as the company's first controlling director. This was an unusual corporate governance structure. The Articles of Association gave this role absolute authority over editorial and commercial decisions. This setup was deliberately designed to keep the newspaper aligned with its founding vision and firmly under de Valera family control for more than 6 decades. While it provided early stability and a clear sense of purpose, this rigid control would later make adaptation to a changing market exceptionally difficult and ultimately contributed to the newspaper's downfall. From the outset, the Irish press combined political commentary with a broader ambition to become a newspaper that ordinary Irish readers felt belonged to them. Its editorial stance broadly reflected the outlook of Fianna Fáil, but its appeal rested just as much on the tone of its reporting, its focus on everyday life, and its attention to the cultural interests of its readership. One of the newspaper's most distinctive features was the prominence it gave to Gaelic Athletic Association sports, particularly hurling and Gaelic football. At a time when other Dublin-based newspapers devoted more attention to so-called garrison sports, soccer, rugby, and cricket, the Irish press treated Gaelic games as central to Irish sporting life. Coverage of the hurling final in its first issue immediately struck a chord with readers. Circulation rapidly climbed above 100,000 copies, and in later decades the paper approached 200,000 copies at its peak. The newspaper also cultivated a strong cultural identity. It carried Irish language material, educational features for schools, and literary pages that later included the influential New Irish Writing column edited by David Marcus. Through these pages, the paper helped introduce emerging Irish writers to a national readership and contributed to the broader literary life of the country. The success of the daily paper encouraged expansion. In 1949, the company launched the Sunday Press, which quickly became one of Ireland's most popular weekend newspapers. 5 years later, in 1954, the group introduced the Evening Press, a lively afternoon paper aimed at urban readers and commuters. The evening edition soon achieved a circulation of around 100,000 copies, helping to establish the Irish Press newspaper group as one of the most powerful forces in Irish publishing. During the following decades, the newspaper group played an important role in Irish journalism, under editors such as Tim Pat Coogan, who led the Irish Press from 1968 to 1987. The paper combined political commentary with investigative reporting and energetic debate about public affairs. It reported extensively on developments in Northern Ireland during the Troubles, criticised aspects of government censorship, and published investigations into controversial policing practices, such as those associated with the Garda interrogation unit known as the Heavy Gang. At the same time, the paper continued to cultivate the broad readership that had sustained it since the 1930s. Sport, features, and cultural reporting remained central to its identity, and for many households, the Irish newspaper was a familiar part of everyday life. It was relatively conservative on social issues and enjoyed particularly strong readership in the Irish countryside. Yet the success of earlier decades gradually gave way to mounting difficulties. From the late 1970s onward, the newspaper faced increasing competition from a rapidly modernizing media landscape. Ireland's demographics were shifting. The population was becoming more urban, younger, and more affluent, with changing tastes in news and entertainment. The Irish Times aggressively expanded its appeal to the growing urban middle class. The launch of the populist Sunday World took away weekend readership. More damagingly, an influx of British tabloids chipped away at the working class and rural readership that had long formed the core of the newspaper's audience. British publications started producing Irish editions and offered cheaper, more sensational content. Many Irish readers drifted toward these imported titles. Financial pressures grew steadily worse. The company's autocratic management structure rooted in the original controlling director model, struggled to modernize printing technology, refresh the newsroom, or respond nimbly to market changes. To revive circulation, the Irish press relaunched in tabloid format in 1988. The redesign brought some short-term attention, but did not solve the deeper structural problems. By the early 1990s, the group was burdened by heavy debts, while readership declined steadily. The crisis came to a head in May 1995. Years of accumulated losses, rising debts, creditor pressure, and a bitter industrial dispute over restructuring had already made continued publication impossible. In May 1995, these problems were made far worse by a Supreme Court ruling in the long-running dispute with minority shareholder Ralph Ingersoll. The court ordered the Irish Presses Group to repay about £4 million in loans that Ingersoll had previously provided, adding a major new debt at the worst possible moment. The printing presses stopped shortly afterwards. The Irish Press, the Evening Press, and the Sunday Press all ceased publication in the same devastating week. Around 600 employees lost their jobs, bringing a sudden end to a newspaper group that had been part of Irish life for more than 60 years. The rise and fall of the Irish press offers a revealing example of how newspapers shape and are shaped by the societies they serve. For decades, the paper succeeded because it spoke directly to its readership, blending politics, sport, culture, and everyday stories in a way that resonated with Irish readers. Its closure in 1995, driven by shifting demographics, intensifying competition from British tabloids, and the limitations of its long-standing family management model, showed how quickly even established media institutions can falter when market realities change. The story of the Irish press therefore stands as a reminder of the powerful role newspapers once played in Irish cultural life. But it also provides a stark lesson in the fragile economics that have always underpinned the newspaper industry.